Welcome to Sonic Dorms. My name is Max, of course. On today's show, I have a very special guest. Her name is Maiah Wynne, and she is basically, for those that don't know, she's an award-winning singer-songwriter and a multi-instrumentalist as well. So, an incredible talent. So, it really is a pleasure to have you on Sonic Dorms today. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, you're based in Portland, Oregon, correct?
Yes. Technically just outside. I live in a city called Gresham, but I just call it Portland.
Okay, I got you. Just for starters, I'm really into knowing the roots of where people come from musically as artists. What informed your own musical talents
I
starting out?
feel, yeah, no, that's a great question. I feel like I started playing the piano when I was 3 years old, and my very first influences were Nora Jones, Radiohead, a lot of the things that my parents would listen to in the car, no doubt. um, Duran Duran. There's a wide variety of what they would listen to. Queen and um, but I do feel like Nora Jones specifically and No Doubt were both pretty influential at the beginning, and Radiohead especially. Um, and as I continued on my journey, I grew up and I moved from Washington to Montana to Oregon, and in that every stage of that, I would listen to music, and that music and those influences changed with each setting. In Washington, I listened to a lot of indie music, a lot of like undiscovered indie music. I would sort of scour YouTube for artists that hadn't really been um, popularized yet, and I was really into that for a while. And like there's a band called Astronaut Husband that I fell in love with. And and then Iron and Wine before they got like really big, and there's some just really beautiful indie music. And Daughter, I discovered Daughter, although she was or they were already big, but that was a huge part of my life at that stage. Greg Glaswell also. And then when I moved to Montana, there's an introduction of a lot of like more folky music. I was around the time Maggie Rogers started to get popular, and she's fantastic. And um, I really started to incorporate more folk and bluegrass into my sounds. And my grandparents listened to a lot of bluegrass, and that influenced me during that time as well. And sort of each stage has sort of developed. I went through a heavy rock phase when I was 13. It's just been a whole, it's a mixed bag.
I hear just in what you bring musically to the table, all those influences, especially the Nora Jones coupled with Radiohead. I can there it's very even I hear even a little bit of Tori Amos in there as well.
Oh,
Just
yeah, for sure.
and not to say that it doesn't sound like that necessarily. It sounds like you. It's your own thing, but I can hear those influences in a way that's very organic, and I think that's the
Thank
key
you.
here. It's like you're bringing all these influences as an artist and filtering them through your own lens, and I think that's what makes you stand out.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like that's the goal. I'm gonna adjust this because it's slowly sinking. I'm
No
sorry.
worries.
Sorry, that was
It's
too
okay. It's all right.
loud.
Uh,
Slowly getting shorter throughout the interview.
It's all right. It's casual here on Sonic Dorms. It's all about just like you're just at a record shop and you're just chatting with a fellow like-minded music geek, if you will. So
Beautiful.
absolutely. So when it comes to your gravitational pull towards your musical influences and your you just getting into music and honing in on your craft, was that something that came natural to you? Like just were you someone that just gravitated towards these instruments and your vocal approach and just kind of was a very natural thing for you? It wasn't something that required too much practice?
Yeah, I took piano lessons when I was really young, and that's the only formal sort of training that I had.
Mhm.
I took piano lessons for about 4 years, and I loved it. I fell in love with creating music. I wrote my first songs when I was 6 and 7, um, and it just I fell in love with that process, and that was a huge part of it for me. It wasn't like I love listening to music, but to me, listening to music has a completely different it's a different experience than creating it. And the thing that I really fell in love with was creating it. And I would improvise, and I would come home from school when I was young and just play the piano and sing whatever came to my mind. And it was very healing for me. And I fell in love with the like this you get a rush of creating something, even if it's not something great. There's just something magical about it when you can make something that nobody else has made before. And um I don't know. That for me was it. That was the hook that kept me going for a long time, which is funny because I have a lot of covers out, but really I've written over 200 original songs that I just haven't like put out there. I've played them at my live shows, and I play them at home all the time, but for some reason in my brain I was like, people just want to hear covers online. But I've decided I'm going to start putting more of those songs out because I have so many of them. And really that's the thing that tethers me to music, is the creative process of it.
Yeah, Maya, I'm going to tell you straight from the heart, we need original music from the heart and soul. I think that now more than ever, we need artists who out there to, who are just coming from a real, raw, emotional, dare I say, emotionally vulnerable place. We don't have enough of that nowadays. And I mean, we might have, but you have a certain. I mean, I've listened to Lift, which you released last year, and that song immediately took me aback. And because there's just something there. It's hard to put magic into words, but when you hear something like special in someone, a certain talent, a certain quality that can't necessarily be replicated in any way, or it doesn't come often from many people, and especially nowadays. And it's just it's nice to hear that again. And so when I heard your voice and I heard your songwriting on a song like Lift, uh, it really made me appreciate it because I don't take music like that for granted at all, especially nowadays. Because especially from newer artists, younger talent that's just coming onto the scene, I think we need it now more than ever, especially in this day and age. So I really appreciate what you bring. We need original content. I mean, absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. And it definitely helps me feel more confident in going and doing that. I think I'm a lot more particular, I think, and perfectionist about my original songs. And I think a little bit more afraid of what people will think of them. I'm harder on myself when it comes to them. So I think that's part of why I don't have as many just recordings of them out. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to record it, it's got to be exactly how I'm hearing it in my head. It's got to be a studio recording. And, sometimes all you need is just a microphone and that's it. And it's going to be good. So I just got to like let go of some of that control and just let it be whatever it is.
Maybe that's part of. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, really. I mean, some of the greatest artists of all time are real perfectionists in my book.
Yeah.
You have the George Michaels and the Princes and the David Bowies, the Peter Gabriels of the world, who
Mhm.
really take their time on their craft. They really, and that's why when they do come out with a song, even one song, it's immediately impactful, immediately powerful. It's just well crafted. It really is like building a proper house, if you will. The song itself is like a home, and you're building, and every little part sometimes needs to be where it needs to be for a specific reason, and it's part of the overall architecture of a song. And it
Yeah.
seems like you understand that wholeheartedly, which is why you're as good as you are. I think that's part of what makes you as talented as you are, is because you're such a perfectionist.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I hope so. And I hope that I'm able to really craft the music that I put out there. I'm currently working on my debut album. Like I've released a lot of sort of temporary records that I sold at my shows for years and that had demos and recordings as I had them. But I'm finally sitting down and recording a record, and I'm really excited for it. I feel like I've I've learned a lot about my craft as a songwriter in the studio. In the past 2 years, I've learned a lot about music production. I've been doing a lot of my own, editing and recording, and I'm co-producing the record with my regular producer. And I feel like it gives me a lot more uh, it's sort of like actually having all of the tools you need to make a painting. You can make a painting with just your fingers, but if you have a paintbrush and you have the right paints and the right tools, it can really help you create what it is that you're envisioning. And I feel like I've finally figured out how to use so many of the tools that are so influential to recordings today. And it's made a huge difference. It's like learning another language, and I can communicate, okay, this is where I want this specific delay, and this is where I would like, more saturation on the vocals and like blah, blah, blah. I have a vocabulary now that I didn't
Mhm.
have before, and there's always those jokes where musicians are in the studio and they're like, can you make it more purple, and you're just like, what does that mean?
Yeah, you're like, okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I feel excited about crafting those songs.
yeah, and what's interesting to me is you mentioned you have a repertoire now. You've assembled 200 songs or so, right? So, how in your mind do you already have a vision as to what songs are going to make the cut? Because I mean, you've written with that many songs. I mean, it might be a little difficult, right?
It's incredibly difficult, and I definitely feel like, unfortunately, I'm very influenced by what I think will do well, what I think people will like the most, and that can be helpful in some aspects, but I think it also hinders me from being my most authentic self sometimes because I'm so concerned about like, okay, well, what's the song that's gonna do the best on TikTok or I don't know, it's something that's like it's just such a part of being a musician in the 21st century of you know following every trend and trying your best to stay relevant and get in front of people on the internet and it's exhausting. It's great that it's a possibility and I can market myself out there, but I think unfortunately that does play an influence. But I've been trying to really just focus on, okay, which songs feel the most relevant to me right now. This is sort of like an encapsulation of a moment in time. It's like a sound time capsule, like, so what songs am I going to look back at this time period and think, okay, yeah, that was my life, that was this world, and that's the music that really represents me in this era, I guess. I don't know.
Right. There's just something. I think the best. I mean, what's great. It seems to me like you're on that road is like it, especially nowadays. Like the best thing is to be authentic and to be your true self and to not fit in necessarily, but to stick out. And I think that factor and being just your true self and being unique. And that's what I think there's a lot of people out there, young and old, who are still craving authenticity in their artist and their artistry, no matter what the medium is. And to me, to carve out your own niche, I think is what's going to ultimately carry you forward, just because I think like at the end of the day, those fans that you acquire early on based on your own unique perspective in songwriting and in music and in your own form, uh, those people that love your music are gonna stick with you till the very end. Those people are true and the most honest of fans. You're not fickle at all. So I think you're on the right path. It sounds like that's amazing.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, um, it's interesting to me because you've been in the press rounds, like for the strangest reason in a way, or not even necessarily strange, but surreal. And I'm just gonna admit, I'm not gonna lie to you. This was what brought me into discovering you and your music. Uh, was the announcement of this project with that happens to feature Alex Lifeson from Rush, the guitarist extraordinaire of Rush, project called Envy of None, also with Andy Curran, who a lot of classic rockers might know as He was in the band Coney Hatch at one point. But yeah, very surreal that you how this came up, right? I mean, how do you feel about that? I'm sure you've been asked about this ad nauseum at this point. So I didn't. I definitely don't want to just keep beating on that drum, but I would like to ask how that all came about, and especially with an artist such as yourself who is still working, or working out the kinks of their debut record and their first announcement to the world, and here comes this project out of the blue. And how did that come about, if you don't mind me asking?
Not at all. It's very surreal and really special. I think that it I don't know, it's outside of my normal genre, and it's really sort of challenged me to songwrite in a new and different way. But it first came about 4 or 5 years ago, and I had won a song contest called Claim to Fame. And one of my prizes was a mentorship Zoom call with Andy Curran. And I didn't really know much about who he was. I didn't really know of the band Coney Hatch at that point. And I looked him up, and it said that he was like a manager and that he had worked at this music company in Canada. And so I thought, okay, he's sort of like an industry guy who also, was a musician and did pretty well in rock and all this stuff. So I knew sort of basic, anecdotes about him, but not much at all. And we jumped on the Zoom call, and neither of us really knew what we were supposed to talk about. And he was really kind, and he wanted to support me and help me. And I had one song that I had done that he really, really liked. And it was a song called I Got Nothing that I did as a collaboration with my producer. And it was more industrial. It had kind of just a different vibe to it. And he was like, keep doing that. I really like that. And then he started talking about his own project and that they were sort of in looking for a vocalist. And I didn't really think much about it. I was just like, yeah, well, if you ever need, vocals on something, let me know. And he's like, okay, yeah, I might take you up on that. And he sent me something later that week that just was an instrumental piece. And um I think he had like one or two lyric ideas, and I built off of that and wrote all of the lyrics and vocal pieces for the song, and sort of rearranged some things to make it a full song. And he was really happy with it, and I was really happy with it. It turned out really cool, and that was a song called Shadow, and it's going to be on the record. And then, like a whole year later, we had finished two songs, and it was just a very casual thing to me at that point. And all of a sudden, he called me out of the blue and was like, so I showed this to my buddy Alex, and he loves it, and he wants to play on it. And I had no context. I didn't know it was Alex Lifeson. I didn't
Mm.
know it was any of that. I was in my head, it was still just this very casual thing. And then he's like, the band Rush, right? And, at that moment, it just hit me like, what? And it was very surreal. And over, the course of the last 4 years, I've heard many stories from them about how they started working together, and how Andy's journey as a musician is also just incredible. And he's so humble and just kind. And um it's so funny to me because I know that he knew, I just had no idea about anything. And so I think he probably enjoyed dropping that sort of like huge bomb because it was just super exciting. And I think it probably made the whole process more authentic. There wasn't any angle at any point. It was just sort of, it grew very authentically. And um since Alex has joined sort of the band, it's been really exciting. And he just adds so many amazing dynamic layers to each of the songs. And I'm actually finishing up the last song of the record right now, and it's very exciting. Uh, it's just an incredible project. I'm hoping to go to Toronto in the next couple weeks and be in on the mixes and maybe finish up a couple music videos and a photo shoot. And it's just wild. It's been a wild journey.
What an incredible story, right? That's like a like something out of a dream, really, right? I mean, especially
Yeah.
the way you just told that story. It's like that happened, really.
Yeah.
You gotta
Yeah.
kind of pinch yourself, um, but not freak out too much, right? So, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you gotta kind of keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. But I mean, for me, and I think a lot of people that are in that sort of world can attest to this. It's like everything that Alex has done has been with integrity and from the heart, and he doesn't just do things just to do them. So, and that's been evident throughout the course of his entire recording history. So I think a lot of the Rush fans will gravitate towards this project, not just because they're fans of his past work, but because they just admire the integrity, and they'll anybody who works with him is considered, A class and the best of the best, and people of real power in music, real people who embody something that is, dare I say, larger than life. And so you being part of that world, I think, attests to that. So congratulations. I think that's
Thank you.
fantastic. So I cannot wait to hear like the entire project, and the fact that there's almost like it's very enigmatic at the moment. Nobody really knows what's going on, or
I
no
know.
one's
I'm a
really
little
heard anything.
terrified, honestly.
So
I feel like I feel like there's a lot of pressure to do a good job. I've felt that recently, now that the cat's out of the bag. And I've been getting lots of messages from, Rush is such an iconic band, and they have so many fans and so many like dedicated fans. And to be sort of this first, I don't know, project, like full project album outside of that with Alex, which I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of pressure to do a good job. And I'm not Getty. This music isn't Rush. It's different, and I feel like some people are gonna really love it, and I'm terrified some people are gonna hate it because it's not Rush, and there's that fear in me, but I think that people will still hear that thread of authenticity. They're still going to hear Alex. They're still going to hear those things that make this music really unique and true to that core. And I'm excited for it and a little nervous and I have hopes that people will really like it. I'm really proud of it. Alex is really proud of it. And we're all just super super um, excited for this. And we've put a lot of energy and heart into all of these songs, and they're all unique. The process has been really interesting for each one. A couple of them were songs that Alex wrote that I added lyrics to, just sort of based off the song name, which is a bit challenging for a couple of them because his instrumental pieces are so dynamic and different. A lot of these other songs were pretty straightforward, but he's got like Cowboy Blues, which is in between a major and a minor key, and like doing all of these wild changes. And it's like trying to fit the vocal in there was like a new kind of challenge. And I feel really excited for how it turned out. But it was a good vocal and mental exercise for me to try to like, I don't know, I feel like sort of the last puzzle piece in a lot of these songs where like I have all of these pieces and I sort of get to mold myself to be that final piece that fits with everything that's there, and makes it all cohesive.
right,
And it's been really a fun journey to work on these songs, and each one is different. One of the songs is my song, and it's very heartfelt and beautiful, and like I think it's probably the most like stripped down song on the record. Um, and then this last song that I'm working on right now is very like I'm gonna be screaming in it. It's like it's heavy and like kind of balls to the wall, and I'm excited for that
wow,
dynamic change of like, each song has its own core and its own sound, and um but I think they all still sort of feel cohesive as one sort of record. and I'm very excited for it.
It's incredible. So you're being pushed here in a lot of into a lot of places as a songwriter, as a vocal performer, that as an arranger that you've never really, had that sort of experience with prior to this project. So is that something that you think you're probably gonna bring into your debut album when is that all the lessons that you've learned throughout the Envy of None project?
Absolutely. I feel like I've learned so much from this project and about my process as a songwriter, but also like there's songwriting, but then there's also sort of the writing process that happens in the studio. And there's sort of two different pieces of that process. And um, I've learned a lot about my process in the studio from this record. And like the, I think because there's so many dynamics to these songs, I've sort of acquired more of a tool set for dynamics in my own music. Like, okay, I know how to create this. I know I can do this now. There's really nothing out of the realm of possibility for this record. And um, I feel that with my own record as well. And there really is, it's a, even though it's a very different genre, I'm still in all of this and you can hear my sort of signature thing, and I hope that that comes across to people who enjoy my music, who go and listen to the Envy of None album. I hope that they still hear that I'm in there, and they feel that thread because and honestly, I think that now more than ever people don't expect you or need you to be in one single box musically. People can experiment. I mean, just look at Taylor Swift. She went from like country to pop to
Hmm.
indie to folk, and she's
Hmm.
doing all those things and um, doing amazing at all of them. And her fans are with her the whole way, which is super incredible. And so I'm hoping that m- my journey can be the somewhat similar, different genres, I guess, but in that I can be here and take these lessons that I've learned from this kind of rock, alternative, industrial album with Envy of None and create my own sort of folk pop indie record as well, and that people will be able to listen to both of those and enjoy it and still feel like, yeah, that's Maiah.
Right. Right. What comes first, if you don't mind me asking? Is the Envy of None project actually going to be like your debut into the world or your debut album, or is the solo album going to be first in line?
I don't know. Right now, it kind of feels like a race. I'm waiting to see what happens. I'm trying to release both of them before the end of the year. And we just signed a record deal for Envy of None, which is super exciting. And they're ready for these final pieces so we could get the mastering, the mixing and mastering done and get it sent to vinyl and do all of those things, get the CDs pressed and but all of that takes time still and we have to get the artwork done and so it's still going to take a bit of time, but they're hoping before the end of the year that Envy of None will be out there and done. And then that's the same goal I have for my own record that I've been working on for a long time now. So I think it's just a race of time. We'll see which one makes it to the finish line first.
Yeah, I'm really excited for both releases, and I really do think that just nowadays everything is kind of out in the open with most artists. So I think this is one of those rare occasions where there's this really exciting project looming on the horizon that nobody really knows about, or a couple in this case. Personally, that excites me. I think that anticipation for an album, and I'm an old school. I may be young, but I'm an old school music listener. I just grew up at just all my life. I've was grown into listening to records as a whole, and I like the anticipation and I like the waiting factor. And I like my physical releases as well. I mean, the whole thing. So that mystique, I think, is it's really nice to have that feeling again with something in music. So I'm really excited.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like that I'm hoping that that practice of listening to a record top to bottom is coming back. I think it is kind of a lost art form of experiencing the music how the artist intended, as a full story almost. And I'm I'm curious to see how we end up ordering the songs because they are so different from each other. Um, Part of me is like, oh, we should do sort of like the slower songs and then splice them with the super like balls to the wall song. But I don't know if that's gonna feel too whiplashy, Like the album listening journey is a very important one. So
It
I'm
is.
excited to see how that unfolds and the order that everybody wants to place things in.
Yeah, sequencing to me on an album is everything. It's like chapters in a novel or scenes in a film. It really is like to me at least, or building a set list at a concert, even at a show. It's that building of beginning, middle, and end. I think is crucial to the listening experience, especially if you intend it to fall in line in a certain way. I think every little song in that particular order makes all the difference. I think, at
Yeah.
least to me. So,
Yeah, I
um,
totally agree.
yeah, I have to mention something that I think is really important. I discovered this just going through one of your press releases, but you've donated time and to a lot of charities, important charities, a wide range of charities like the Arts Fund, Seattle, and the Black Resilience Fund, the First Aid Arts, and whatnot. I think it's really important to mention that because that's something that again I don't think there's enough of. So I commend you for that. I think that's incredible. Um,
Thank you.
is that something? Obviously, that's something that's really important to you. So we're is that what brings you into wanting to help in such a way?
I think honestly it helps me more than anything.
Mhm.
Um, I'm a very emotional person and I care a lot about, probably care too much about everything. And it's very hard for me right now, especially to keep going. Like it's a tough world. It's a lot of suffering. And I think some of it comes from a place of wanting to feel like I'm doing something good in the world. I know that my music is able to help people and that definitely is important to me. But doing something immediate and tangible, like helping to raise money for this specific project and purpose right now, we can do something to help, and using my music and my platform as a means to help people is something that helps me so much and also is so important to me. I think the music industry in general, it can easily sort of cloud your brain. It's a very egocentric thing, and I struggle with that sometimes because it's easy to get swept away by that. Like, oh, how do I look in this video? And do I, did I do this okay? How do I come across? Like, it's so like me, 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 me all the time. And um, it's a good reminder to like get away from that because it can be pretty toxic and it's not healthy. It's not healthy for us to look at pictures of ourselves every day and selfies and photos and uh, it's a lot. And I think that it's easy to forget that there's so many things happening in this world that we can just take a moment to raise awareness, to help, to support, to take, the spotlight away for a little bit and shine it where it needs to be seen. And I think that that's important. And I don't know. It's something that I think I'm always going to do. I have so many plans, if I get rich someday, these are all the things I'm going to do to make a difference. And like, I have that list in my room and I have so many plans because there's so many different, I don't know. I just like, you look at people who are billionaires and you think, how could you not be doing these things to to help so many people if you could? Like, I feel like there's so many people out there like me who would just be chaotic good if they just were rich, and just be constantly doing things to help. And that's what I hope. I hope someday I can get to that point because that would be incredible. And it would also, I think, make all of that those journeys as a musician worth it to me, and I don't know. I could ramble on forever about it, but that's
That's
just
what
sort
this
of
is
my
here for. This is what
yeah.
this show's about. So by all means, if you need to.
Well, thank you.
Seriously, I think these things are go beyond music, and artists who are that committed and that these real empaths of the world, if you will. I take it you're one of them. Just real people with real heart of gold, hearts of gold, and that you know are few and far between. And again, it's just something that needs to be acknowledged and appreciated and respected. And I think really love is the answer at the end of the day. And I think to show that and to give time to all these causes and these or that really need it, I think is something that again needs to be commended and really acknowledged. I think that there can never be enough of that in this world. So much appreciation to you for doing that and for dedicating all that time to these causes and these things that to me need always could use more light on,
Yeah.
So
I think that's definitely something I learned working with so many of these organizations is that there are some pretty amazing people out there doing really important things. And it's easy to go and, do a performance to raise money for them and to talk about them because like MMIW USA, Deborah, who is working to literally go and rescue young women who have been human trafficked from their communities. And like, she's she's a real life superhero, And it's one of the most incredible things getting to know these people who are out there making such a huge impact. And it's a very, and it really fulfills me as a person and in my life, and it fills my cup. I think that's the phrase that makes the most sense. It really does, and I hope that I can be a tenth as amazing as these people are in my lifetime.
I mean I have no doubt, especially after this time with you on today's show on Sonic Dorms, that you will get there. So I see you on the up and up, and you really are the real deal, as I like to say to those who are. And I wish you nothing but the best on your journey in music and life. I see you going far. So absolutely keep on doing what you're doing and don't let anybody stop you or get in your way, because we need more people such as yourself out there in the world, especially in these trying times. So all the respect to you in the world. And I cannot wait to hear what's coming next. I really want to hear an entire album's worth of music from you as a singer songwriter, whether it's through your upcoming debut solo album or through Envy of None. I just can't wait. So I feel like it's like this anticipation that just building and building. So I can't wait to hear it. And all the best to you, Maya. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and you've been absolutely wonderful. So
Thank you so much.
appreciate
That means
it.
a lot. I mean, the Sonic Dorms is a passion project of mine, and it's really about bringing artists and fans from all around the world to passionately discuss music, no matter where or what it is. And so I really appreciate you. We're about to hit a 1 year anniversary coming on the show to, basically take a chance on the show.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. So I can't wait. I would love to have you back on once you actually have a record out to discuss, and I can actually have listened to it entirely. So you're always welcome back. You'll always have a platform on the show, no matter what, if you're open to coming back. Absolutely.
I would love to. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Maya. So until next time.
Awesome. Thank you.